Hi, Laura. I am trying to change my background. Ah,
I want to stop the recording.
oh,
It's probably in 2013, I think. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. On campus, awesome. Good deal. Well, I'll let y'all keep typing. I know sometimes it takes a second. But I will be monitoring the chat throughout our time together today. So if you have any questions or you'd like me to re-explain something, or if you can't hear me, not all of y'all were on yet, but they are repaving the street in front of my house right now. And they decided that now would be a good time to really get the jackhammer or something going. So it's a little loud that I can hear, but if you have any trouble hearing me, just let me know. I'm happy to repeat anything. Learning from Prassel, very nice. I lived in Prassel when I was a student at Trinity. We called it Prassel Castle. I don't know if that has stuck around. Well, good deal. Like I said, I'm monitoring the chat as we go, so if you have questions, just let me know. But I will go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. And here we go. All right, so as Jessie mentioned, my name is Becca Burt and I'm the academic coach. So when we are on campus, you can traditionally find me in the library and the Tiger Learning Commons. So I'm still at home for now, but hopefully we will all be back together on campus soon. Towards the end, I'll go over a little bit more about what we do in academic success. But today I wanted to talk with y'all a little bit about strategies for online learning. Clearly, this is a very unusual semester that we're in right now, and a lot of the things that we're used to regarding school have shifted pretty drastically. So I wanted to get a sense from y'all about what some of the things are you might be concerned about this semester. So if you've never used Poll Everywhere before, you can either join via text. So you can text the number 22333 to Rebecca Burt 814, or you can join online. So if you want to open up another tab in your browser and go to pollev.com/RebeccaBurt814. You can participate either way, whatever is more convenient for you. But I wanted to hear what your concerns are this semester. You know, ideally you're feeling super confident about all of these things, but I know there might be a little bit of trepidation knowing that this semester is a little bit unusual and we have some new variables being thrown our way. So I see already one response is coming in, which means that it's working. So that's a good sign to start. But these are just a few things I typically hear from students about, you know, college concerns, things they're worried about. So I wanted to hear from this group specifically about what some of the things were that y'all have been thinking about. So far it looks like college level writing is taking a lead, okay? But then managing a time zone difference. So we can absolutely talk about both of those things today. I'll wait a second for some other responses to come in. And if you're having trouble with Poll Everywhere, you're also welcome to message me publicly or privately in the chat box. So if you have any trouble getting on there, that's another option for you as well. We'll have a few Poll Everywhere questions today. So I like to try to keep things interactive. Okay, college level writing definitely taking the lead today. Good deal. Okay, so one of the things I want y'all to know is that with all of these different things you might be worried about, there's a resource on campus for you. You know, and we might not all be physically on campus at the moment, but there is a Trinity resource available to help. So some of the things that I tend to specialize in are online learning. We're absolutely going to talk about time zone differences today, so I will get to that in a moment. I talk about study skills, procrastination. I can help with structure of writing, and I'll also talk a little bit about the Writing Center and how you can utilize those whether you're on campus or not. Knowing who to go to when I need help. One of the things I like to tell students is that if you have any college related questions, so, you know, maybe, you know, okay, I don't think this is a Becca question, but I'm not sure who can help me answer this problem or this solution. You're always welcome to ask me. Even if you know it's not my field, it's not what I do, I'm happy to connect you with someone who is the right person to help. So always, ask for help is one of my favorite pieces of advice to give to students. So if you know something's a little off and you're not sure who to go to, I'm more than happy to guide you in the right direction. And balance can also be something I help with in academic coaching. It seems like writing is definitely taking the lead today. So we can absolutely cover some of those resources as well and how to be a successful writer in a college setting. So thank you all for participating in this. That gives me some kind of good things to work on for our time together today. So moving right along, time zones was one of the things y'all mentioned in the poll. So as I've seen already just from your responses, some of you are on campus, so time zones are not an issue at all. But some of you are from a little bit farther away and may be dealing with almost a flipped schedule. So this is something, I just did a quick Google search, what are people saying about this? And there are tons of articles. It's a lot of student newspapers talking about the student experience given, this new situation we're in. So I think there are a few different things that I like to talk about in terms of work from home, and I'll hone in a little bit today on ways to do that, especially when dealing with a time difference. So part of what can make a time zone difference challenging is knowing about synchronous versus asynchronous classes. So are your classes meeting live at a designated time? Are they synchronous, or are they asynchronous? You can complete the class material at whatever time is convenient for you. So this is our second poll everywhere question. So I wanted to kind of read the room here again and see, are your classes mostly synchronous, so they're meeting live at a specific time, or are they asynchronous, meeting at kind of, different or varied times, and you have, different responsibilities outside of class? So we're seeing a mix so far. So I'm seeing all synchronous, mostly synchronous, half and half. So we've got a mix here. Okay, and I know based on where you might be located this semester, that could be more or less challenging depending on where you're learning from. And it can be challenging even if you are in the same time zone. Zoom classes are a new journey for all of us. So even if you are in the same time zone, they can be a little challenging too. Okay, so we're seeing mostly trending towards the synchronous side of things. So we are in classes at the same time most days. Okay, so that is good for me to know. So thank you again for your participation with that. So in terms of how to be successful with, synchronous or asynchronous classes, working from home is kind of a big part of this semester. So home might be your parents' house, home might be your residence hall on campus, maybe you're in an apartment somewhere. Home might look like a lot of different things right now. But regardless of where you are and what you're doing, I have 3 key points that I think are really critical for being a successful online learner, whatever that looks like for you. So the first piece is establishing a routine. So I think there's a lot of variables in our world right now. Things are moving, things are changing, we're getting new information all the time. So the more that we can be consistent with what we're doing and establish that routine and have some kind of sense of normalcy in the world that we're living in, the better, right? So I'd like y'all to reflect and think about, what do your days typically look like? Your classes are probably, for the most part, Monday through Friday. I don't know of any Saturday or Sunday classes, but I suppose with time zones, you may be in a Saturday or Sunday class, depending on where you are. So when are your classes? What do your days look like? When is your weekend? Do you have on times or off times? So when am I focused and engaged and learning? And when am I relaxing and taking time for myself and resting when I need to? How do you set boundaries with that? I don't know about you all, but certainly since March of this year, the amount of time I spend in front of a screen has gone up by a lot, between meetings with students where normally I would be sitting across a table face to face, to all kinds of different meetings or lectures or webinars, right? We have a lot more screen time in our lives than we used to. So how are you setting boundaries with that? How can you have some time away from your screens? And then who holds you accountable to your goals? So if you know there are certain times of days you want to do certain things, or you want to spend a certain amount of time studying for a particular class, who are people who can help you stay accountable to those goals? Sometimes self-accountability can be a really challenging thing. So if you have a friend, a roommate, a family member, an academic coach perhaps, someone who can help you stay accountable and think about what do I want to do and how do I make sure that that happens in the routine that I set for myself. So kind of setting some norms for yourself, some guidelines, a schedule, that's absolutely something I can help with in coaching. So if you'd like to talk about your unique schedule, the classes you're taking, any hurdles or obstacles you might be facing this semester, I'm here to help you normalize that and figure out how to make a routine out of it. So the second part that I think is super critical now more than ever is communication. So, we as staff members, faculty members, your professors, right? I'd really like to say we're psychic, but we're not. We don't know everything that's going on. So communicating what is going on with you is going to be really important. So the first part of this is, your physical surroundings, right? Who are you living with? Do you have a roommate? Are you with your family? Who are the people kind of surrounding you? And what do you need from them? I imagine there are times of the day, like maybe when you're in class, that you don't want to be interrupted and you want to make sure that you can stay focused and engaged on what you're doing. But there might be times where you can say, oh, I can be interrupted. Maybe, I'm home with my family and we need to let the dog outside, right? Or, maybe, this is just reading time and if you need me to come help with the dishes, I can do that real quick, right? So communicating when can I be interrupted versus when do I need quiet, uninterrupted space. So can you post a calendar somewhere that lays out, this is when I'm in class, please let me kind of work uninterrupted during this time versus, hey, the afternoon's open, let me know what you need from me during this time. Can you share a digital calendar with them so they can see what you're doing? How can you let them know what you need to be a successful student? And then the other part of this is who are you learning with? So this is your professors, your peers, tutors, the Writing Center peer tutors are here, the QRS Center, the Quantitative Reasoning and Skills Center, all of these people who are here to help support your learning and make sure that you're a successful student. What do you need from them? They might not know that you're in a time zone 8 hours ahead, right? They might not know that you're struggling with a particular assignment or you have a question about the way something is phrased, right? They don't know that that's happening unless you tell them. So particularly for, students who might be in an extreme time zone difference, are there ways that you can make sure that people realize that? Can you put something in your email signature? So when people reach out to you, they know, hey, I'm in XYZ time zone. The times of day I usually respond to emails are maybe late at night to early in the morning in Central Time, right? So how can you let them know that, hey, you might not hear from me during the typical workday. It might be a different time, so there may be a delay, right? How can you tell them, these are the things that I am dealing with, my class is at 3 in the morning, is there a way we can work with this? What do I need to do to be successful in your class, right? So again, your asynchronous classes may lend themselves a little bit more to your classes, right? Because you get to pick when you do that work. But it sounds like most of y'all are in the majority tend to be synchronous classes. So if you are, dealing with weird hours, or even if you are in the same time zone and you're just struggling with, staying focused on Zoom or hearing everything, or maybe you have a weird internet connection, right? Your professors, your peer tutors, they don't know about those things unless you tell them. So how can you communicate effectively and let them know what's going on? Part of what I help students do is help draft emails sometimes. They say, I know I need this thing, but I don't know how to ask for it. I don't want to be rude, or I don't want to ask, in an inappropriate way. And so I will absolutely help craft emails if you're unsure about how to communicate what you need from someone else. So the third piece here is engagement. So how do you stay focused and engaged during class time? So I know for me, having my camera on makes a big difference because I know students or, staff or whoever I'm working with can see me, right? So if there's something going on outside, I'm less likely to, wander and stare off into space, right? So that kind of accountability is helpful for me. But maybe you can't have your camera on all the time. Maybe your internet connection isn't set up for that. Can you set Zoom to be the only thing on your screen? Or if okay, I'll need Zoom and T-Learn open, can you just make sure that those are the only 2 tabs? I'm one of those people that has 50,000 tabs open all the time. So if I know I need to stay focused on something, I minimize everything else and just pull out the one tab that I do need. So what can you do to eliminate distractions? Things like turning off notifications that are coming in, right? If you wouldn't have your phone out on your desk when you went to a physical classroom, you know, put it away if you're in a digital classroom too, right? Even those little, you know, pings, right? Little notifications, desktop things that come in, they pull our attention away from what we're doing. So if you know that you can eliminate those things by either using do not disturb, turning the settings off, or switching, you know, the phone off entirely or putting something away, you know, figure out what works best for you. We all have different distractions in our life, right? I have a cat at home that sometimes decides it's time to destroy things while I'm working, right? So there's, you know, some new and different things that we're dealing with this semester. So, and each of you will have different distractions or things that kind of can be disruptive in your learning environment. So you can't control all of those things, but think about what are the things that you can control? What do you have power over to, you know, make some changes for yourself to build a successful learning environment? And again, I mentioned this earlier, but this is a lot of screen time we're dealing with lately. What are some things that you do to avoid burnout? Are there classes that, you know, your professor says, you know, you don't need cameras on today? Can you just listen to the class instead? Maybe can you go for a walk outside and dial in on your phone, right? Are there ways you can read something out of a physical book instead of on a screen? How can you switch things up and make sure that you're getting, you know, some good time away from screens as well? So again, we talked a little bit about communication and sharing, you know, what you're doing with other people. I'm a big fan of Google Calendar, especially if you're dealing with different time zones, because you can then see things, you know, in a way that makes sense for you, right? Whether that's the time that you are in, or if you want to switch to San Antonio time, if that makes more sense, right? So, you know, I'm a big fan of Google Calendar because you can include things like tasks and reminders. So, you know, there's all kinds of different ways that you can manage your time and your tasks and the things that are going on. But I like using kind of these in-between times, right? So if I know when I'm in classes in these purple times, right, what am I doing with the blank spaces in between? What am I doing with that time? When am I studying? You know, thinking about when your synchronous classes are, you know, those have a specific time, you know, that's not moving. Versus, okay, this is an asynchronous class, but I'm going to set a specific time so it becomes part of a routine, right? It doesn't become an afterthought that I do at the last minute. So, you know, this is all about you and what's most helpful. So if you're a Google Calendar user, great. Or if Google Calendar is new to you and you're wanting to make sure that, you know, you're utilizing all of the best tools that you can, let me know. I'm happy to walk through it with you and, you know, kind of show you the different things that you may or may not already know about Google Calendar. So in terms of how to apply, you know, the science of learning and, you know, the most up-to-date cognitive research about being a successful student and not just, you know, viewing information, but retaining it for the long term and remembering it for, you know, the foreseeable future. These are 3 practices that, you know, are really important, both during COVID and the pandemic and without that, right? So they are retrieval practice, distributive learning, and interleaving. So retrieval practice, think of that as quizzing yourself, pulling information from your mind and thinking, can I remember this unassisted, right? Distributive learning is the idea of spacing learning out over time, so not cramming at the last minute. And interleaving is mixing up your subjects and, you know, doing them in different orders or even out of order. So again, this is a quick overview of these things, and I'm happy to talk about how you can apply these principles to the classes that you're in, because it might look a little different depending on the class. But this is the study cycle. So again, I know we're running close to the end of our time together for today, but as a quick overview of this, I want y'all to know I don't expect anyone to do all of these steps perfectly all the time. This is a suggestion, and we can talk about how to apply the parts that work best for you. So think of skimming as a quick introduction of material. What are the most important things that I need to know about, right? Reading is when you dive deep and go in depth, right? How do I go into specifics about what it is that we're covering? Class time is, of course, getting the content, whether that's a remote lecture, or one in person, right? And then the notes or review is gathering it all together. So these are all different ways that you can apply retrieval practice, right? Seeing things more than once and over a long period of time. So what tends to happen is that we'll see something once, we maybe engage with it one day, and then we don't see it again for a while. So then a month goes by and it's time for a project or a paper or an exam. And we go, that was a long time ago. I have to kind of reteach myself and start over. So the more often we see something, the more we're cueing our brain to say, hey, we're coming back to this. That's important. We need to do it again. Right. So again, the ways that you do each of these steps may look different depending on the class that you're in. So if you have questions about how to apply this for your unique schedule, that's absolutely something we can do in coaching. So one of the things that I want y'all to know about, if you've ever taken psychology or education classes, you may have seen these ideas before. But Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a psychological concept about what we need in order to be kind of successful and effective people, right? So at the very baseline, right, we need food, water, shelter, right, the bare minimum, right? As we go up kind of the pyramid, there are different things we need to feel, self-actualized or fulfilled, right? So safety needs, right? Do you have somewhere safe where you are? Do you have a job? Can you provide for yourself, right? Do you have love and belonging, right? Those important social relationships we have. Esteem, so that kind of confidence or self-respect. And then self-actualization being that kind of fulfillment and wanting to do the most with what you have. Right, so making sure that you have these things, in some way or another is really important. We want you to have these needs met. Bloom's taxonomy is an educational principle. So these are different levels of learning. So you may have done a lot of learning in your past that was mostly remembering or understanding. Someone told you a concept and you repeated it back to them. Now that you're in college, you're going to be asked to do some of that higher level learning. Critiquing, analyzing, creating your own material, right? And that takes, a lot of effort and thought on your part. So in order to bloom, since it's Bloom's taxonomy, we need to make sure we have all of our basic needs met first. So the one I wanted to focus on particularly is sleep, especially if you're dealing with a time zone difference. And even if you're not, if you're in San Antonio and you're not sleeping well, you're not doing yourselves any favors. So I just want you to know that you do have a sleep expert on campus. Catherine Hewitt is our wellness coordinator. So I can tell you some of the basics about sleep, right? You want at least 8 hours, maybe even 9. You want it to be consistent sleep, right? But if you're dealing with an unusual schedule and, you're dealing with classes that are at odd hours, Catherine would be the best resource to go to in order to talk about, I have a 3 a.m. class. What should I try to aim for my sleep schedule to be effective at that time? Right? So Catherine's an awesome resource, and I would highly encourage you to reach out to her if you're having any problems with sleep. So again, a quick review of academic support and what we do. We do academic coaching. So we can talk about procrastination, time management, study skills, learning strategies, testing anxiety, online learning, and more. Right? So if you have questions about any of those things, let me know. So we do classroom visits like this one. We do workshops from time to time, but we are not academic advising. So if you have questions about your course schedule or specific classes or declaring a major, your academic advisor is going to be the person you want to go to for that. So we are also, the academic coaching and support, we're located in the Tiger Learning Commons, and we are available through TutorTrack. So that is our website to make appointments with any of us. So I'm going to put this in the chat real quick so you have access to that. So that's TutorTrack. You can make appointments with myself or Betty. We do academic coaching, or you can make appointments with the Writing Center. So if you'd like someone to help you go over that paper that you were talking about earlier, right? The Writing Center is a great space for any stage of the writing process. So if you're at the beginning and you need, a little bit of help kind of coming up with what to say or a direction to go, or if you're more towards the end and need help with revision and editing, they're here to help with that as well. You can also sign up for appointments with the Quantitative Reasoning and Skills Center. So any kind of quantitative based coursework they can help with. So it's not just things like calculus or statistics. They also help with economics, they help with physics, they help with engineering. So they have a wide range of classes that they support. So again, you can make appointments with any of those 3 resources through TutorTrack. And you can also submit papers for the Writing Center through a Google form. So if you want some asynchronous help, they're here to help with that as well. If you're looking for help with structuring how to write a paper effectively, maybe you know you have a month to do it and aren't sure where to start, that's where I come in. So if you need help thinking about when should I be looking for resources, when should I be coming up with a thesis, when should I be drafting, that's something that I'm absolutely happy to help with. So to wrap up our time today, I want to hear 2 more questions from y'all. So it can be based off of something you heard me say or something completely different that you've been thinking about trying. I want to hear about 1 new system, task, or idea that you're going to try out to improve your academic performance this semester. And then I want you to name 1 person who can help you achieve those goals. So it can be a professor, a tutor, a staff member, a friend, a family member, right? It's very open. I want to hear from y'all. 1 new task or system or idea and 1 person who can help you. And you can submit more than 1 response. So if you'd like to send them separately, you can. Let's see, the Writing Center, absolutely. And they have lots of different peer tutors at the Writing Center too. So try going at different times and meeting with different tutors. They're all, you know, they all have their own unique style and spin on it. Using a to-do list, absolutely. Try to define my screen time. I can manage it, absolutely. I'm going to improve my writing skills throughout the first year as a college student. 1 person who can help me is Professor Rowe, absolutely. Professor Rowe is the director of the Writing Center and for tutoring programs, so she's a great resource. I'm going to apply spacing in my studying, absolutely. I'm glad to hear it. These are awesome responses. My FYE professor, Dr. Vince, absolutely. Your professors are here to help you. You know, they're choosing to teach at a small liberal arts school like Trinity because they like interacting with students. So they are absolutely here to help you. Oh, good question in the chat. Where is the Writing Center located? Awesome. So if you are on campus, they're physically located in the Tiger Learning Commons. So that is when you go in the library, they're on the left side. So if you see where the circulation desk is, they're just past the circulation desk. And we're through those doors in the Tiger Learning Commons. I know most of what they're doing this semester is online. So you can either go to drop-in hours. So those are posted online, and I can find that link real quick and put it in the chat for y'all. So there's drop-in hours, which are also over Zoom. So if you're somewhere else, you can also go to those. You can do an appointment. Yes, so they do have appointments. Another great question. So if you just want one-on-one time with a tutor, you can set an appointment using TutorTrack, that link I sent earlier. Or you can just go to drop-in hours and see who's there. Or if you want asynchronous feedback on a paper, there's a Google form as well. So again, after I finish out of this presentation, I'll find that link and I'll put it in the chat so you have it. So that'll have all the information for any way you might want to use the Writing Center. Let's see. Oh, I'd like to sharpen my writing skill. Can I go to the Writing Center even if I don't have a paper to write? Absolutely. I promise you our tutors are super friendly and they are passionate about writing. So I think they would be more than happy to work with you on any part of developing your writing skills. So yeah, great question. Love it. Excellent. Okay, so we had some awesome responses coming in through Poll Everywhere. So thank you again for sharing with that. So I know already some questions have come in through the chat, so please feel free to submit those. That's my contact information. So my email is rburt@trinity.edu and my phone is forwarding home, so you can always give me a call at my office phone, which is 210-999-8180. And then again, TutorTrack is where you can make appointments with me. So any other questions? I will minimize out of this so I can go ahead and get that Writing Center link to the chat, but I'll look for other questions as they come in. Here is the link for all the Writing Center information. Great. Any other questions before we wrap up for today? Or before I wrap up, I know y'all have a little bit more to do after this. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your participation and for the great questions y'all asked. If you have any further questions for me or you'd like to set a coaching appointment up, just let me know. I'm more than happy to meet with y'all. But thanks again for your time and attention today. I really appreciate it. And good luck this fall.